Starting over from zero, part 4, making your business a full-time commitment. Now, our last video was all about risk versus reward. Now, I mentioned that early adopters will take a chance on you with hopes of having a great reward by taking that chance. But it actually works both ways. Most of the time, service providers, they start off by moonlighting in their day job. And while you have the comfort of that day job, you dip your toes into the shark-infested waters of entrepreneurship because it's a lot more comfortable than ripping off the Band-Aid all at once. And it's also much lower risk overall. But if you want to make an omelet, you need to break some eggs. And if you want to grow a thriving business and a long-lasting impact, you'll probably need to increase your risk profile to succeed. Now, for many, that's the commitment to pursuing your business idea full-time. And like any decision that you make, there are many possible combinations of scenarios and outcomes that you may encounter when you make this decision. And it's easy to get paralyzed by fear about the choice at hand. But isn't it a lot more fun to focus on the good things that can happen when you prepare to make the leap? Let me walk you through some scenarios for pursuing your business full-time, from the least risky to the riskiest bets that you can place. Okay, so what's the least risk? Well, I'd say having 5+ years of cash in the bank and enough freelancing clients to replace your full-time salary within minutes of handing in your resignation. Pretty great, right? You have all the money that you want, you have the money backed up, and you're replacing your income right when you go. Talk about a dream scenario. You have a runway, but you probably don't even need it, right? Okay, well, that's a dream scenario, but it's not likely. So let's talk about some more realistic scenarios. The first one is the extended runway. This is a situation where you have a few clients lined up, you have more than a few months of expenses, and you have a desire to make it work. When you're in that scenario, you might have a 6-month runway or a 1-year runway, and as long as you keep on getting new clients, you'll never run out of resources. The next one is called an anchor client. This is where you have one big client to replace your income and enough time to figure out the rest. This is how I got started, and this is how many people get started. They go in there and they hand in their resignation from their job, and then the job says, hey, would you like to stay on as a contractor for a while because we can't find somebody as good as you? That anchor client can stick with you for a while, and it gives you the opportunity to make some good money while also having extra time in the day that you didn't have when you were an employee to go and figure out the rest of your business. There's one called the supportive partner, and this is when you take a calculated risk while your partner supports you and your family. This is something that I've done in the recent past. Basically, I said, hey, to my wife, I want to quit my job and pursue education full-time, pursue what eventually became data-driven, and I need you to support the family while I do that. And she did it for over a year until we got back on our feet with data-driven, and then I was able to have her quit and pursue her passion as well. And so we supported each other along the way, and that helped us get out of a situation that we wanted to get out of by having the supportive partner. There's the all-in scenario. This is when you're not really that comfortable with your financial situation or the ramifications of your finances, but you're committed to figuring it out before you have to give up and get a job. And so basically you're saying, I'm pushing all my chips into the table and I will figure this out. I'm not really concerned about having less money now than I did before. I'm not concerned about that part. I'm just going to do whatever it takes to figure it out. There's the winging it, which is when you think it might work, but who knows? Might as well give entrepreneur a shot. Winging it is something that I've done in the past as well. Basically saying, you know what, I think this is going to work. I think I have some momentum, but I don't have any of the financial criteria that I just outlined above, and so it's much riskier. The first time I ever went out on my own was pretty risky because I didn't really know where I was going. I didn't know where things were heading, and I was taking a big risk, and that's what happens when you just wing it. And then finally, there's the no plan, head first, can't be that hard plan. And yeah, that might work. Who knows? If you just jump into it, it might work. But the chances are that if you jump into it, in this case, it's probably not going to work all that well for you. Now, the funny thing is I've seen people do these things, even with the less risk, like the lower risk scenarios, and end up having to go back and get a job or having to end up stopping their entrepreneurial journey. And it's usually because they don't really have a plan at all, or they do elements of these things, but they don't really have all the package put together. So they might have an idea, or they might have one client right now, but they don't have a runway to move forward. Or they have an anchor client, and then all they do is spend time with their anchor client, and they don't actually spend time doing business development to figure out the rest of their business. And so when that anchor client goes away, they have to go get a job. And so that's something that I consider to be not really all that entrepreneurial. Basically, it's just an employer by another name. Now, if you're taking your employer and you're getting paid as a contract instead of as an employee, all that you're really doing is shifting the risk away from your employer to have, to have your employment, and you're actually shifting risk to yourself in the name of maybe having lower taxes or something else along the way. And so I don't really recommend anchor clienting with no ambition or no knowledge whatsoever as to what your business could become. And so a lot of these other scenarios, a lot of the risky scenarios are simply just not having a plan at all or not even thinking about these things. And that's really where it gets risky, no matter how well you're set up. And it goes without saying that the more certainty you have in your decision, the less risky it's going to be. But is it a good idea to go full-time to make that happen? Well, here's the thing that I've learned over the years that may sway your decision. It probably is worth the risk. You see, the worst case scenario is that you gain a ton of experience figuring things out, don't make all that much money, so you're a experienced success but not a financial success, and then you go back to the world of the employed. But when you do that, when you go back to the world of the employed, you're going to be more valuable than before you left, and employers will be glad to have you. So the risk that you're taking has the potential to be offset by your gains, even if you're not a financial success. And so to me, that makes going full-time an inevitability. And if you're looking for that nudge, drop me a line, let me know your scenario, and I'll tell you if I think it's a good idea or not, or I'll tell you what steps you might want to put in place, what things you might want to think of before you make that leap.